As we introduce this module, I think it's important to look at some things that educators should consider as we develop the future training programs. Some things that are really important for us to consider are those things that are important to you in your program or for your organization, for your company. Also, one that concept that's especially intriguing and useful to you, something that yourself are passionate about and can get excited about. Don't have to drum up a bunch of motivation to get going, but something that you really enjoy doing as you work at designing your future training program, to be able to come up with some neat ideas and innovate and to be able to pass those on to those that you're training or educating is very, very helpful to consider as you move forward. Obviously, there are more, but these are just a couple of them. To move forward in this presentation, another important issue or factor that we must consider as educators is our credibility. Credibility is important. In many ways, it's the foundation, our teaching and our ability to communicate and to educate those who are put in our trust. If we don't have credibility and those who are coming to learn from us don't believe in us, don't think that we have their best interests, aren't prepared ourselves adequately, we lose the fight even before we've begun. We've lost the battle even before we've had a chance to start our courses with those who are entrusted to us. Credibility really is one of the most important factors that we have going forward as we work with those who are entrusted to us, who've come to us for training, for education. And as we look at the next slide, we'll look at some of the different kinds of credibility. There are 5 kinds of credibility, and as we look at it on this slide here, we'll look at the kinds and the time periods that correspond to when these take place, these different types of credibility. First is inherent. Inherent credibility is related to our gender or nationality, and this obviously is before training. This is something we bring with us, and this is something that as a trainer or as a teacher, an educator, is something that we have inherently with us. For example, on gender, if you're a female talking about female issues, you obviously have more inherent credibility than a male talking about female issues. You'd have to have a lot of training, a lot of background and experience, maybe as a medical doctor or as a researcher or something like that. The next one is conferred credibility. This is where we receive our licenses, our degrees, even some not only having those degrees, but maybe from a prestigious institution, or we have recognition by respected organizations that we're a part of, or we're associated with individuals of great stature, maybe political, maybe educational, academic, just popular people like movie stars or newsmakers or news organizations. Just the conferred aspect or type of credibility, once again, that is before training as well. That corresponds with the inherent, is something that we bring to the training and something that we have with us when we get there. The next type of credibility is considered to be expert credibility. This is a person's knowledge of a subject being dealt with or someone's professional skills that they have. So things that they have worked hard and long at, and so we would consider them to be an expert. This is something that is displayed during the training as one is giving illustrations and working things through. People can realize and determine whether that person's an expert or not. And so this is a type of the credibility that is really critical during the training or education classroom period that will actually help students become more engaged because they realize that the person that's teaching them does know what they're talking about. Congruent credibility is gained if a person has qualities consistent with the client organization and with the individual the trainer is working with. So, for example, in a cross-cultural, multicultural setting, this congruent training would align with the cultural values system of the folks that you're working with in a different culture. So you can see how going forward as vision and a value system to build with your global education enterprise in teaching, that this is really, really critical to establishing credibility, the congruent credibility. And then fifth, the last one is contribution. This one actually occurs following the training session or the classroom or the course. This contribution credibility is information or insights which provide accurate, valuable, and viable information for immediate and or long-term use. So this could be some statistics, some examples, some stories, and things like that are very useful for those that you are educating or training, and that they can apply as they move forward in their experience with that different culture and learning how to interact in a better way. Another critical issue as you think of value system for working in globalization and education is trust. Trust in a training environment is really critical. And I think that the more trust you can give folks at the beginning, the better. The amount of trust that you give to others is the amount of trust they'll trust you. So if you don't trust them, those you're training, they probably don't trust you. Bottom line is, if you don't trust them, why are you educating or training them? Is it just a job, or those that you've brought into your midst, are they there for, what are they there for? What is the reason they're there for? They're obviously there to learn and want to be there. So giving trust, establishing ways at the very beginning where you can build trust, maybe handing off responsibilities to others at the beginning, maybe taking role, maybe other small ways where they can run errands or do things. You build trust and responsibility, give them projects to work on as a group, maybe appoint group leaders and put people into groups if do something like that. Just creative ways to create trust in your training and education environments. Another critical feature to consider is your communication style. This is really important, deciding on how you're going to do that, or maybe if you do a mix of both, but there's a high context and low context style. Obviously, with so many opportunities today with technology and being able to do things that way, a lot of times it's more efficient to do that, but there are also critical moments when we need that face to face contact as well. And we'll look at these a little bit more in detail in the slides coming up. A high context communication style really demonstrates in context and interconnectedness. So, for example, a hierarchical context where the president of an organization will hire the training really comes up and validates and shows the importance of the training by his presence being there, includes the trainees and expectations and dialogue with him on things that they like to see as a group or as an institution. A chronological context also demonstrates interconnectedness, but it also uses high-ranking officials to remind trainees of their organization's history. So like a president of a university or a chancellor, somebody like that coming along and reaffirming commencement or at different assemblies for an institution. Within the organization, the president of the organization may do the same thing, give examples, illustrate, show how the training and the education piece of the organization is key to continuing on the value system of that institution or organization. Another example would be physical context, where this you'd carefully choose the location of the training session, take in the size and shape and color lighting of the room, the furniture you might use, the temperature of the room, and then also social context. This type of context includes opportunities for comfortable interaction among participants and trainers. You may have a dinner, may have a luncheon, some drinks, some small group discussions, some team projects, or even some field trips. And then the fifth and final high context communication would be the personal context, where trainers offer verbal, nonverbal report building opportunities to the training participants in order to build professional relationships with the participants and encourage their commitment to the training program. So more of the one-on-one interaction with those who you are working with going forward in the future. A little bit of all these combination in the high context communication could be very, very beneficial. For the low context communication style, this usually includes a description and lists of information that need to be conveyed. So a lot of times this can be done through the use of technology a lot of ways when you're interacting with a group, like things like passing out a schedule, day's events, or a calendar. You could do that through email or through a course management system or a portal that you may have set up within your HR training organization system there. You directly launch presentation discussions of initial topics to be discussed. So you could actually, maybe if you've been in an organization where you've gone through some HR training, see the videos that are up, then you go through those training. I know at our institution, we do a lot of that just remotely. We just go on and we do pieces of training, whether it's related to IT or security or ethics training or sexual harassment. A lot of that we can do the option of doing that with technology. Another thing you do on this is, you can provide in these low context communications, provide explanations where you can just give out facts and figures and numbers. A lot of times these may be even done with a PowerPoint presentation or a keynote or something else, some sort of presentation. A few other considerations for low context communication as you think about your values and vision going forward with your training for your globalization piece of your course or your program or for your training at your company. You can use low context to summarize points covered, like do a summary and okay, send this out, make sure everybody's on the same page. This is kind of what we, write it down. This is what we talked about. You can also be preemptive and plan and write down specific action steps that you'd like to do in the future. Put those in measurable, obtainable, concrete results and steps that you can do to get those results. Encourage program participation, ask questions, and give direct focused answers. You could use wikis for these or different survey instruments through Web 2.0 technologies and applications. A lot of things you could do that, or just with a discussion board. You could also have participants do evaluations or surveys through a Survey Monkey or something like that, or Zoomerang, things that are out there. There's so many things. Doodle is another one. Just a lot of things that are available. Send a farewell greeting at the end of a program through an email or through an announcement or video announcement, things like that that you can use. So low context communication, high context communication, different applications for different uses, for different needs that you might have, and in integrating both of these styles into your communication will be very, very critical for the success of your program as well, and to engage students and those that you are training. Another area is really critical for value system and vision as you move forward, thinking about training, educating those in a multicultural society with the millennial generation in particular, is the idea of collaborative learning. Here we are working with the group, allowing the group to work together to solve a problem, to come up with a solution, to manage situation. Here the group can really use its strengths and not just rely on one person's ability, but be able to pull the strength from multiple individuals. And in here, this is where trust, again, giving that trust over to the group to be able to manage learning and to come up with the results. Also, to make sure that each person is contributing and giving back to the group and being able to be engaged in real dialogue. Some things you may be able to do is interject or listen to the group and interject questions in order to expand the thoughts. As you work with those groups that you're training and educating, you can spend some time there and really multiply your time through group learning and be able to help them to see and to come to solutions to issues that they may be facing in a particular context. So, to summarize values and visions, and we think about the future of training and how it's best to work with those in a multicultural society, in a global society, the millennial generation coming up, using a mix of technology and one-on-one opportunities that you may have and needs for. So different applications for different needs, not getting stuck in a rut in one area only. Thinking of other ways to communicate your material rather than just by lecture, but more or less allowing groups to collaborate and work together to solve problems. Ultimately, I think overall we really want to be respectful of those that we're working with and just maintain an overall sense of interconnectedness with the group that you're training, those that you're working with in the groups, and realize that life does happen, life goes on, things are going to happen, and people may not be able to make the outcomes that you intend them to, but to have those outcomes, but then to be able to be flexible and to adjust and to work around, especially in this global dynamic society that we're all a part of,